The Fire Within, Quest of Veerendra the Valiant. Long ago, in the vibrant land of Surajgarh, there was harmony between man, nature, and the gods. The rivers flowed clear, the trees whispered gently in the wind, and the people sang songs of the sun. At the heart of this kingdom stood the golden palace of King Dharmavir, a just and noble ruler whose wisdom was spoken of across distant lands. But peace, like a clay lamp in a storm, is fragile. From the dry and cursed sands of the Kaalnayan desert, a dark power returned. Kaalnayan, a sorcerer once exiled for practicing forbidden magic. He was no longer human. His soul had fused with a gemstone of terrible origin, the Raktanitra, or Eye of Blood. With it, Kaalnayan awakened a creature from beneath the earth, Ajgarash, a colossal serpent-dragon whose breath could melt stone and whose presence drained all joy. The skies of Surajgarh turned crimson. Rivers began to boil. Crops died. Villages vanished overnight. Even the bravest warriors of the royal guard could not defeat Ajgarash or approach the sorcerer. Every hope seemed to be swallowed by smoke. The people wept, and in his bed of sickness, King Dharmavir whispered, "We need not just strength, but purity of heart." Far away from the palace, in the peaceful village of Kaalnayan, lived a young man named Veerendra. He was not born of noble blood. His father was a potter and his mother a schoolteacher. Veerendra grew up shaping clay, tending goats, and listening to tales from the village elders about ancient heroes and gods of fire. One day, as a boy, he had saved a traveling yogi from a pack of jackals by throwing hot coals from his family's kiln. In return, the yogi gave him a copper anklet with tiny glowing symbols carved into it. The yogi had said with a knowing smile, "Courage does not come from the sword, child. It comes from within. When your heart burns bright enough, this anklet will guide you to your destiny." Years passed. Veerendra trained with the Order of the Sharanga, a group of noble warriors who protected villages and temples across the land. He learned to fight, but more importantly, he learned when not to fight. He saved farmers from bandits, mediated between feuding neighbors, and prayed every morning at the temple of Goddess Vani, the flame divine. Then came the day when the skies darkened. Villagers from Surajgarh fled to the forests. Mothers carried weeping children, and priests recited chants of protection. When Veerendra learned of the terror rising in the capital, he did not hesitate. He packed his sword, his mother's prayer beads, and the copper anklet, still silent, still warm, and began his journey to save the kingdom. At the palace, King Dharmavir was too weak to stand, but he placed his hand upon Veerendra's head and said, "My son, the creature cannot be defeated by mortal hands. You must find the blade of the fire god, Agnadara. It is hidden where only the pure-hearted may go." Thus began Veerendra's true quest. He traveled deep into the heart of Rudravan, a forest so old and wild that even maps refused to remember it. The trees there were tall and twisted, their bark lined with ancient runes. The forest was full of strange whispers, not wind, but memories. Veerendra walked for days, guided only by the glow of his copper anklet, which pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Soon he came to the Mirror Grove, a clearing where still water reflected more than just the face. As he approached, the water shimmered, and he saw not himself, but his fears. In the reflection, his family was dying. The people of Surajgarh cursed him. He stood alone, powerless. His hands trembled. But then he remembered his mother's voice, telling him as a child, "When fear knocks, answer with truth." He stepped into the pool, the water hissed, and the illusions vanished. Further on, he entered the Valley of Bones, where the ground was littered with the remains of fallen warriors. A chilling wind blew as Bhayasur, a once prince-turned-shadow demon, rose from the earth with a cloak of mist and blades of darkness. Veerendra fought with all his might, but the shadows clawed at him. Then the anklet blazed like fire, and its light pierced the darkness. Bhayasur screamed and faded, and the valley grew silent again. His final trial came at the Shravani River, where a lone woman waited, dressed in white silk and prayer beads. She was Devika, a priestess whose eyes held millennia of memory. "You have courage," she said, "but do you have peace?" She asked him to give up his anger, his sorrow, and his desire for revenge. Only one who carries fire without hate can wield the blade of Ajgarash. Veerendra wept quietly and placed a lock of his late father's hair, something he had carried all his life, into the river as an offering. The current sparkled gold. Devika smiled, and the river parted, revealing stone steps leading underground. Deep within the temple of Jwalamushi, fire danced along the walls like living spirits. At the heart of the temple stood a great flame in the shape of a lion, the spirit of Ajgarash himself. "You seek the flame soul blade," the lion roared. "Why?" Veerendra knelt. "To protect those who cannot protect themselves. Not for power, not for fame, only to stop the darkness." The lion leapt into his chest, and instead of burning, Veerendra felt warmth, light, and peace. When the fire cleared, he stood tall, holding Agnidara, the sword of eternal flame. The final battle was unlike any the kingdom had seen. Ajgarash flew above Shatrashila fortress, blocking out the sun. Kaalnayan chanted curses, calling forth thunder and flame. Veerendra charged into the storm. Their battle shook the mountains. Ajgarash hissed and struck like lightning, but Agnidara deflected every blow. Kaalnayan unleashed a wave of black fire, and Veerendra ran straight through it, sword blazing with the power of the gods. With a cry that echoed through heaven and earth, he leapt high and plunged Agnidara into Ajgarash's heart. The sky erupted in light. The serpent screamed. The gemstone shattered. And when the flames calmed, Veerendra was gone. All that remained was the anklet, lying on the stone, glowing gently in the breeze. Surajgarh was saved. In time, Devika built a temple in Kaarunavan, not of gold, but of stone and flame, where a sacred fire is still kept burning to this day. The people speak of Veerendra the Valiant, the warrior of clay and flame, whose heart burned brighter than fear. And when the skies grow dark and winds turn cold, children ask their parents, "Will the anklet glow again?" And the answer is always the same. When the kingdom needs him, fire will rise once more. But the story doesn't end there. Legends say the anklet holds a spark of Veerendra's courage, a promise of his return. For generations, Surajgarh prospered. The memory of Ajgarash faded, yet the anklet remained a symbol, a reminder of sacrifice and hope.